we won't be able to hear you.
Now, how do I get a copy?
Oh, I send it to you. I ask for your address and all the information at the end of the interview. Then I go and transfer it to a DVD and send it to you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Hopefully, last year we got them sent out by Christmas, so
Okay.
it takes a while to transfer them to. I'm just gonna put this on right here. There you go. I'll kind of put it on there.
Yeah. I'm ready with it.
Okay, my name is Deanda Johnson. I'm interviewing Angela K. Smith Watson on August the 11th, 2007 at the Stevens Family Reunion for the African American Presence in the Ohio River Valley Oral History Project. Thank you for agreeing to do the interview with us. Can you please tell me your full name and spell it for me?
Angela.
Remember, complete sentence, my name is.
Oh. My name is Angela K. Smith Watson. I am the daughter of Ethel Stephen Smith and Fred Smith.
Can you tell me when your parents were born and where your parents were born?
My mother was born January 30th, 1933 in Chicago, Illinois. And my father was born March 15th, 1925. I believe he was born in Mount Pleasant, Alabama, near Sardis Hill.
And how did your parents meet?
My mother was walking home from school one day with some friends, and I guess my dad seen her and wanted to meet her. And his brother knew the lady that my mother was walking with, and somehow or another they met. And that's about what I know.
And where was this?
In Dayton. She went to Roosevelt High School, and he worked at Wright-Patt Air Force Base for a little while, and then he got hired on at General Motors.
And your father was how much older than your mother?
From 1925 to 1933, so 8 years. 8 years difference.
Can you please tell me a little bit about where you were born, the date and your place of birth? Were you born at home, in a hospital, that kind of thing?
Okay. I was born June 12th, 1954, approximately, it's either 6 a.m. or 6 p.m. at Good Samaritan Hospital in Dayton, Ohio. My mother, she was the first black nurse to graduate from Good Samaritan Nursing School. So she had little, I would say, special privileges, maybe, say that.
What is your family's ethnic or racial background?
Well, I would say we're black. My grandmother, Marie Bass Stevens, her mother, Matilda Jane Hill Bass, was white, and my great-grandfather, Ed Bass, was black. And I think his mother was Indian. Serena Bush was her name. And on my father's side, as far as I know, they were black.
You mentioned she would have been your great-grandmother? Or was she your grandmother that was white?
My great-grandmother.
Your great-grandmother, do you know what year was this that they were married?
No, I don't offhand. But I do know she was from Red Key, Indiana. No, I don't really.
How did they meet?
I don't know that either. Probably a church function because he was a minister. and he did a lot of traveling. And I know he came to Zanesville a lot. That's how my grandmother met. My grandmother Marie Bass met Willie Stevens, and then they married and had 6 kids. And the baby girl Ethel is my mother.
So can you talk a little bit, so your grandparents on your mother's side, who were they, where they were born, and when they were born, if you know that information? So your mother's parents were?
My grandmother on my mother's side was Marie Bass Stevens. She was born, I believe, in Greenville, Ohio in December 17, 1906. And my grandfather, William Everett Stevens, I'm not sure where he was born, probably right here in Waterford.
How about your father's parents? Can you tell me a little bit about them?
My father's name was James Smith, and I really don't know anything much about him because he died before I was born. But my grandmother, Sally Martin Smith, I think she was born in 1863, and she died in 1964.
And where was she born?
I kind of researched that, and it out of Virginia. Where out of Virginia, I don't know. But I went to one of the places where you look up your history, and I found her, Sally Martin and James Smith, and then they had listed a Fed and a Goshen, and they had put them down as her son, but later I found out those were her brothers, and they were Martins. So I really I've just started to try to research there, but they were out of Virginia somewhere.
You mentioned she was born in 1863. So was she enslaved, or was she a free person of color?
Not sure. I'm not sure.
Tell me about how many brothers and sisters do you have? Where do you fit in the lineup? And where were they born?
Okay, my mother has 4 children. I am the eldest. And I have a sister, Melody, that's 18 months younger than I am. And then I have a brother, Fred, who is 4 years younger than her, and then I have a younger brother, James, and he's about 46. So Melody lives in Dayton. Fred is trying to relocate to Atlanta or Birmingham, and Jim lives in Atlanta.
What is your husband's name?
Unfortunately, I'm not married. I'm divorced. Thank you, Jesus. But I hope one day that he'll send me somebody. But if he don't, that's okay too. I did that. I have one son. His name is Alexander Cahill Watson. He was born July 5th, 1985. Now, my ex-husband was Robert Green Watson, and he was born in Mississippi. And that family lives in Toledo. So.
And how did you meet your husband, your ex-husband?
A friend of mine introduced me to him.
And when were you married?
We were married December 15th, 1984.
And what was your wedding like?
It was just a small wedding. We were going to get married in the pastor's chambers, but so many people showed up that we had to interrupt choir rehearsal and had a wedding. So It was supposed to be very simple.
You mentioned that your father was born in the South. Did he talk about how it was growing up in the South? Did he ever tell you stories about what it was like and what his life was like growing up in the South? And can you tell us some of those stories?
Well, he really didn't talk about it much that I remember. I know he didn't like it. As soon as he was able to get away, move away, he did. He went to Champaign, Illinois, where one of his aunts lived, and then he came to Dayton. Now, there was about 7 children. There was about 7. So his older sister was a lot older than him. And he didn't particularly like, I don't want to say bowing down, but, you know, he decided he wanted a better life. He didn't want to live, you know, in torment. Because, I mean, I don't know. He really just didn't say. He just said he didn't want to live in the South, so he came north. And he was on his way to Detroit when he stopped in Dayton to visit a cousin. And his cousin said, man, I think I might be able to get you on, you know, at the base. So he went to the base for a little bit, and then he got on at GM. And I'm a GM baby, so I'm very spoiled. So.
Why do you say because you're a GM baby, you're spoiled?
Because they had benefits. They had some good benefits. I work for the post office, and everybody think we got good benefits. We got decent benefits, but not like GM had. You know, now they're trying to cut everything. So,
can you tell us just a little bit about what you know about the Stevens family?
From what I have been told and know, they were, are you talking about my great-grandparents?
Or just what you know about the Stevens, your mom's line, your grandparents, your great-grandparents, if you know how they got to Ohio, what brought them to Ohio, where they settled, that kind of information.
I don't know how they got here, but all this land used to be theirs. I was just looking at a picture of James Stevens, who is Jethro's father, who is Willie Stevens' father, who is Ethel Smith, and then me. So we can go back generations, and then somebody was talking about Michael was James's father, and there was another James before him. So, you know, there's a long generation, and this family reunion is the biggest family reunion I've ever seen. There's always at least 100 to 150 to 200 people here, and the kids just keep on coming, and the family just keeps on going. But I guess they came and they were farmers and hard workers. And I know when my grandmother came here, when my grandfather died and they brought him back here from Chicago, that the family had a rough life. And, you know, sometimes you just don't understand what people go through. And the Stevens Hill out there, Mom always tells the story about how Grandma learned how to drive, and she had to drive up that hill and then get to a certain point, and everybody had to get out and push the car up the hill, you know. So, you know, she had, Marie had 6 kids, you know, in the I mean, my aunt is 80, my mom is going to be 75, and my Uncle Bill will be 72. So, I mean, they were very young when he died. My mom was like 6 when he died. So, trying to raise 5 girls and 1 boy, you know, they had it pretty rough.
Can you talk about the settlement in Greenville that your mom grew up in? What do you know about that settlement in Greenville, Ohio, or Dark County, as she calls it? Did you hear about that settlement?
Well, we have a family reunion the second Saturday of July. Every year, it's one of the ongoing is Bass Burden reunion. I think our family was the second or the third to settle there. There were three brothers that came from Guilford County, North Carolina, or South Carolina, one of the Carolinas, and homesteaded the land. And as they got the land, they went back, got the rest of their family, and came back to homestead the land. They were also hardworking people too, and very Christian. You know, DeSoto Bass is my grandfather's brother, and he was very active in social freedoms for Afro-Americans in Dayton. They have a project, a housing project named after him. And, you know, it's a shame that people don't really know who he was, but he was a minister, and he started or helped start the Color Alliance, you know, to help aid Black folks in getting housing and getting started, you know. So.
And what year was this that DeSoto Bass was active in?
Okay. I think DeSoto Bass, this was happening in the early 1900s.
And you talked a little bit about him being a minister. What church was he involved in? Like what denomination and those kind of things?
First Wesleyan Church. It's supposed to be the oldest church in the city of Dayton, but by technicality, another church, Wayman Methodist, got their charter before they did. So I belonged to that church for many years, and I just left a couple years ago, but they are still functioning. His picture is still on the wall. And, you know, they had traveling ministers to go from different city to city, you know, to preach the gospel. And he was one, and he was more like an activist, you know.
Can you talk about your grandfather who was a minister too? What kind of work was he involved in? And sorry to go back, was First Wesleyan an African American church?
Yes. First Wesleyan was an Afro-American church. I guess Wesleyan was started by John Wesleyan, and so yeah, it was like one of the first Black churches in the city of Dayton.
Can you talk a little bit about your grandfather who was a minister? Or actually, he'd be your great-grandfather.
Yeah, he'd be my great-grandfather. And I don't know much other than, you know, he used to make my mom and them sing songs. I wish I could have been there for that one. But they had a one-room schoolhouse, and I guess that's where church was. And he was the pastor, and I guess they went from Greenville to Zanesville, and that's how my grandmother met my grandfather. That part I do know, you know, by them coming up, everybody meeting in Zanesville and have church conferences. So.
Do you know why Zanesville was such a mecca for people of color in this region? Because it seems like all the families have some connection to Zanesville. Do you know why that is?
No, I don't, unless it was Zanesville was probably one of the biggest cities, um, just starting to grow. People, I guess, were settling there. But that's the only thing I could come up with. Maybe they had church conferences there, might have been the halfway point from West Virginia, from the other cities, and they met there.
Can you tell me a little bit about your growing up? Where did you go to school? Where did you guys live? What activities you were involved in and that kind of thing? And what was the racial climate in the city that you lived in? Was there segregation or integration? Just kind of talk about your childhood and schooling and that kind of stuff.
Well, we first started out when I was first born. My grandmother had a big house, and then she had a cottage in the back. And my Aunt Gloria lived on one side and we lived on the other. And when my sister was born, and my father was doing better, we moved to the country out at 1234 South Union Road, 1234. Couldn't lose.
Where was that at?
On Union Road, out in Dayton. It was in Dayton. It was kind of out in the country, and it was. I would probably say it was mixed at first, but then I know when I went to elementary school, it was predominantly white. When I got to junior high, it was mixed. By the time I got to senior high, it was all black.
Can you name the schools you went to?
Went to Radcliffe Elementary, then Jefferson Junior High, and then Jefferson High School. Then I ended up at OU. So I went to school there because my cousin Cecily went there, and my Aunt Vivian went there, and I said, well, I might as well go too if they accept me. So they accept me, and I was there 4 years, and I said that was my growing up experience, because in the country, Mom worked in the evenings, and Daddy was there, so he kept family close. Wherever he went, we went. So it was not like you had your own personal life. I think the first time I went to a football game, I was in the 10th grade, and I had to take everybody with me, So it was like, how can I have fun when I have to watch my siblings? So, but anyway, that's the way it was, and we're a tight-knit family. So that was one good thing about that. Then when I went to OU, I heard my brother say, yeah, when they dropped you off, I cried all the way home. Daddy, go back and get her. She can't leave us, So, but anyway, I felt like I grew up at OU, and I studied mental health. And even though a lot of people don't know, I didn't really receive my degree, but I got an education from being there.
What years were you at OU?
From 72 to 76.
And what was it like on the campus for people of color at OU Athens, correct?
Yeah.
What was it like for people of color on the campus in the 70s, early 70s?
My experience, because of who I am, I get along with everybody. I don't really, I was in a social group, the Honeybees, which were the Sisters of Bava Ujamaa Zendazuri, which was an African fraternity. Probably don't nobody know about them anymore. So, but anyway, we had a couple girls that I went to high school with were on the cheerleading team, and they wanted to be cheerleaders for OU, and they didn't make it. But there were no blacks on the cheerleading team at that time. So we kind of had a rally trying to bring up awareness that we needed some black cheerleaders. So don't ask me what happened with that, because I can't remember. But I do remember protesting, carrying a sign at one of the basketball games. So, but I hated it while I was at OU. But now that I'm older, I really can appreciate it, and I would like to go back and finish my degree. So maybe when I retire.
Now, why did you hate it?
'Cause it was just so far out in the boonies. You know, it's like, it was just too far out. You know, my sister went to Ohio State, which was in the city. They had places to go. It just seemed like the only place we had to go was uptown. So maybe I really didn't hate it, but I always said I didn't like it. But, you know, now I can appreciate it. So that's part of me growing up, you know.
Where did African American students hang out at OU when you were in school?
Well, there was parties in Nelson Hall, I remember, and the Black Studies unit, the Black Cultural Center, and on the wall in front of, what is that building called? Oh, man. As soon as you go uptown and there's the green, and then you come out, there's this Baker Center. They hung out at Baker Center, and the Nelson Hall was underneath, was where the parties always were going on. So,
can you talk a little bit about the Honeybee organization? Why did you join, and what kinds of activities were the Honeybees involved in?
The Honeybees were the little sisters of, like I said, Baba Onjama Zendazuri, and they were African fraternity, and we were just to try to help them promote the activities that they did, which was trying to get Black people aware to sickle cell tests, and like I said, we protested because there were no Blacks on the cheerleaders on the cheerleading team, and just little things like that.
Who was, I can't say his long name. Who was he, and was he native to OU, or was this a national-wide organization?
No, Baba. Well, we call it Buzz, Baba Onjama Zendazuri. They was just a group of African men who took words from Africa. I can't remember what they mean, but they mean something. And they didn't want to belong to a Greek fraternity, so they started their own. It was about 7 to 9 guys who started the organization.
At OU?
At OU. And I think it was in the 70s. I think it was either 69 or 70 when it started. And it went through, I think, 78. They had some called them Super Bees. Super Bees on Kent State's campus, University of Dayton campus, then OU. I think that's it. I think there was 3 chapters.
But they originated at OU?
At OU.
Why didn't you finish your degree? If I may ask, if you're comfortable with answering that.
Well, time kind of ran out. One, I was not ready to go to school. You know, but it's like your parents always say, well, you got to do something. So, you know, you need to go to school. But mentally, I wasn't ready. So the first year or 2, I went to class, but I just couldn't retain the knowledge, so I didn't do well. And then when I got into mental health, I started doing better, but my grade point was still, you know, the overall grade point. I finished those courses, and I should have received a certificate, but I didn't. And I didn't go back to find out why. So I had made that farce about I graduated from OU.
Did you walk?
Yeah, I did. I walked. You can edit that part, but yeah, I walked. Because I've been there 4 years, and it was like, like I said, it was a growing up, it was a social growing up experience.
What did you do after you left OU?
I went to Ohio State, got a job at Upham Hall, which is it was a hospital, but on the mental ward. And for some reason or other, I just couldn't take blood pressures very well, so they let me go. So I ended up going back to Dayton. And I finally found a job working at Dayton Mental Health and Retardation, excuse me. I used to pick up handicapped children and take them to school and work with them for a couple hours and then load them back up, take them back home. The job was great. It was $12,000 a year. I leave home at 10. I was back at 5, but I said I can't live off of this. So I had put in for the post office. I did 2 tests, one for carrier and one for clerk. And, finally they called me and I went and they hired me for LSM, which is keying the mail in. But I have also got shaky hands. I'm not really a nervous person, but, I just shake. So I was there about almost 3 months, and then they fired me, and me and about 4 other women went back upstairs and said, look, we need jobs. I got a son to raise. I need a job, so I carried mail. So I've been with the post office 26 years. I have. Well, put it like this. 2011, I can go. I don't think I'm going to be able to, but 2011, I can go.
Growing up, how were you affected by the civil rights movement, or what did you hear about it? Did it have an impact in Dayton when you were growing up?
It had an impact in Dayton because they tore the west side up. But I lived out in the country, and my parents kind of sheltered me from that, So, I wasn't there in it. We live so far out in the, in the country that you heard about it on the news, but, I really wasn't there to say how it would affect me,
How were you, it seems like you're involved in that fraternity buzz, we'll call it, and it was a Black Power movement. How did the Black Power movement impact you, or what effect did it have on you?
That's a good question. Well, I think we need to stand up for our rights. God made everybody the same. And though my skin is a little darker than yours, that doesn't make you a better person than me. Martin Luther King said, don't judge me by the color of my skin, judge me by my character. And I really believe that. So that was an impact, So I try not to judge people. I meet people every day. They walk up to my counter, and I try to give them the respect that I would want. And, sometimes I'll go to a white area, and, they still have where they'll drop the money, like they don't want to touch you. Well, I drop the money right back right there where they laid it, and you can go ahead and pick it up, but that's not the way I am. And, it's like I'm trying to greet you in a positive mood, and that's the way I want to be treated. So.
How did you learn about slavery growing up? Was it talked about as being part of your family's history, or was it something abstract that had happened to African Americans?
It was abstract. because my mother said that Jethro always said we were freed. Now, on my father's side, I don't know, because my grandmother, she never, I don't remember her talking about it.
Is there anything that you would like to add, talking about how you grew up, how you were raised, that, about, your parents, or anything that you think that you'd like to add to the interview before we end? Or is there anything that I haven't asked you that you would like to add? Because I think we pretty much covered all the...
No, I think my mom and dad, even though we lived in the country, that was kind of a shelter kind of thing, because and it's a whole different world now from the way I grew up to now. I mean, my brother said one time when he went to UC, and he said, I'm going over to my mom's house. One of his friends would say, I'm going over to my mom's house. And the next weekend he would say, well, I'm going over to my dad's house. And he said, well, I thought you was just there. Our family stayed together. We didn't see many divorced families, and out of our world, there was a lot of parents divorced as we were coming up, but we never knew that because in our immediate world, everybody was still together. Like my aunts and them, they've been married 50-some years,
When did your father pass away?
In 1988, the day before my birthday. I'm like, how could you do that to me?
And why did he pass away? Do you know under what?
He had a heart attack, I believe. Mm-hmm.
If that's it, unless you'd like to add anything else, I think we've gone through your childhood, marriage, kids, civil rights, family history.
Yeah, that's good with me.
Okay, well, thank you very much.